Good evening, everyone. Monaco64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Let me know if you can hear me well. There's Billy. He's here. There he is. Here we go. He's asleep as usual. Quite a few of you already waiting. Henrik Sjöblom from Sweden. Belly Dance Arabia. Alan Zibelman. Hi, Alan. Big Mike is here. Sam, James Richter. Jason Gibbo says, morning. He must be in Australia. Sharon Romano says, hi, Mario. And beautiful Billy. Yeah, Billy's doing well. So the title of the live stream tonight is dollars are coming home to roost after half a century of deficits. And I would say it's probably even more than half a century, but I'm taking the 1971 date as the marker, so to speak. Nieces for Jesus says, hope you're well. Yes, I am. Thank you. Pablo. Is that Pablo Pina or is that another Pablo? Afternoon to you as well, Pablo. John Woodlock, I wake every day to you from North Carolina. That's great. Andrew Watson, hi, Mary and Billy. I can hear you well in Basingstoke. That's good. Cesar de Pablos from Spain. Olivier Leroy from Paris. I was reading that you've got the presidential elections in France this month. You have the first round, I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, and then the second round. It will be interesting to see if Macron can keep a hold on power. I think it will be interesting. Don't wake Billy. No, I don't. He's just like snoozing, really. China Insights. Miles says, look up the channel. Oh, Pablo has changed his handle. It is Pablo Pina. That's good. Dave Martin from Cornwall. Sander 1981 says, Alistair, I assume that's Alistair McLeod is now giving guarantee gold is going up this week. I don't know. Nothing's guaranteed in life, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll find out soon. Just to let you know, we should have Rafi joining us today for the live stream in about 7 minutes. So Rafi is going to be on today. He did a really interesting video, and I'm going to ask him to talk about it. And I highly recommend his YouTube channel. He needs more subscribers. I think he's only got about 5,500. He should have a lot more. Of course, he just started recently. So his YouTube channel is Rafi Faber. Easy to find. I'm going to write it here. Rafi Faber. There you go. Paul from Kent, newbie silver stacker. Carlos Garcia, butt naked, says, hey, Mario. Hi, Chuck Diesel. Kevin W. from Ohio. Average Homer. Alan Zibelman, that's right. Gold doesn't change, does it? It's the currencies that go up and down. Gold is money. That's right. Alain Roy, bonjour de Montréal. Great to see you here, Alain, as usual. Hi, Lily Robin. Nice to see you here as usual. Hendo 19 742. Steve Dent. JP Millward is here. Cosmo, yeah, where's Tiffany Dover? Yeah, that's interesting. That's what Gonzalo Lira asks his viewers to type. I think she, yeah, I mean, people can look up Tiffany Dover. I think I won't get into that here now, but I'm sure a lot of you know what it's about. Hi, Raymonda. Nice to see you here. Colleen from Florida. Just wanted to show you, I got someone sent me a 1 ounce silver round, and it's from Greens Creek Mine in Alaska. And it's a really nice, well, it is a coin actually, and they sent it to me via Gold Investments. I don't give out my address. I don't have a post office box. And I'd like to thank, I think, and I got a note from John Manley. If John Manley is on, here's the, I did get the coin. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful 1 ounce. It's always difficult to put these things on the screen. There you go. And there's the map of Alaska, which of course was sold to, I think the United States bought it from Russia in 1867. So, and someone else from the UK, I didn't get your name because Oliver Gold Investments didn't give me your name, but one of you bought some silver with Gold Investments and bought 3 1 ounce silver coins for me. One for me, one for Billy, and one for my wife. And I've got those coins. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I don't know your name, but hopefully you're here or you listen to this live stream recorded. Who else have we got here? Elias Jones, it is a happy Sunday. It was a beautiful day here today, but it's still a bit cold. It's like frosty every morning here in London. Yesterday we had like 3 seasons. We had hail, a bit of snow, sunshine, rain, everything. Curious Bricklayer. Hi, Curious Bricklayer. Raymonda says, still trying to stack. Sandy Anderson from Denmark. Hi, Sandy. Solar minimum. Yeah, Andy Hughes says. So we got a couple of minutes. Hopefully Rafi will be here in a couple of minutes. And when he comes on, I want to play a video from 1965. Really interesting video. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You will find out. You have to wait a few minutes. Mr. B is here. Hi, Mr. B. Yeah, so basically we're going to talk a little bit about Putin and his peg. He's put a floor on the price of gold in rubles at 5,000 rubles per gram. And that was on March 25th. They announced that, the Russian central bank. And I think most people, and even I, to be honest, didn't think much about that. But then we started seeing the ruble appreciate. We started seeing Putin call for payments for the commodities that they sell in rubles. And then it started to make sense. And I think it's the kind of event where you first don't think it's that important. And then the more and more people look at it, the more important people realize it is. I think, I'm not saying it is, but I think it has the potential to be like the Nixon decision in 1971, in reverse, of course, August 15th, 1971, when the whole world's monetary system was basically destroyed and taken off real money or gold. And I think there's a potential, as I said, I'm not saying it's for certain, but there's a potential that the March 25th decision could be just as big going forward, for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years, I would say. Hugh Mann says over 150,000 rubles per ounce. Well, that would be, oh, here we go. Rafi's here. Let's get him on. There we go. Hi, Rafi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Hold on. Actually, let me just change my camera.
All right. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah. Scott says was listening to the Peter Schiff podcast where he mentions about Fed becoming Japanese. Do you think it spells more trouble for the world economy? It's definitely possible. I spoke with Weston Nakamura from Japan, and he thinks a lot of the Western central banks are following the BOJ. So it's very possible. But if you look at the price of gold in yen, it's at an all-time high. So I think that's where we're going. Oh, there he is, Rafi.
It's not a little blurry. I'm just gonna clean
That's
it.
okay.
All right.
Rafi, I'm gonna quickly play a video here before we start, because and it's from 1965, and I think it's really I mean, it was a warning from you'll see here in a second. I'm gonna put him on. Here we go, from French President de Gaulle. So let's put it. Okay, here we go. You have to read the subtitles because it's in French. Some of you will understand.
Beaucoup d'États acceptent par principe des dollars au même titre que de l'or pour les règlements des différences qui existent à leur profit dans la balance des paiements américaine. Ce fait entraîne les Américains à s'endetter et à s'endetter gratuitement vis-à-vis de l'étranger, car ce qu'ils lui doivent, ils le lui payent, tout au moins en partie, avec des dollars qu'il ne tient qu'à eux d'émettre. Étant donné les conséquences que pourrait avoir une crise qui surviendrait dans un pareil domaine, nous pensons qu'il faut prendre à temps les moyens de l'éviter. Nous estimons nécessaire que les échanges internationaux soient établis, comme c'était le cas avant les grands malheurs du monde, sur une base monétaire indiscutable et qui ne porte la marque d'aucun pays en particulier. Quelle base? En vérité, on ne voit pas qu'il puisse y avoir réellement de critères, d'étalons autres que l'or.
Well, there you go. So that was back in 1965, the French president warning. Oh, hold on.
Good song.
Yeah. I don't know why this has come up. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. So I thought that was really interesting. And, can you imagine if the Americans had heeded de Gaulle's warning back in 65? Of course, they didn't. And what I thought was interesting is that he said that in that current system at the time that the Americans were abusing, they could just indebt themselves freely, he said, because they're the only ones who could emit dollars. So I thought that was interesting. I think we're near where there's the crisis, 57 years later. What do you think, Rafi?
Are we near it? Yeah. I just saw somebody sent me a headline from Germany that German retailers are going to be hiking, German food retailers are going to be hiking prices between 20 and 50% starting tomorrow.
Wow.
So I don't know if that means every German food retailer or generally, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the price inflation numbers we've been seeing haven't even taken into account really the Ukraine war right now. So
Yeah.
things are about to get pretty serious in the next month or two, and there could start to be panics.
The other video I want to share with you guys, I won't play the whole thing, is this video by a really great YouTuber that you guys need to, subscribe to. In just 1 second. There we go. Is from Rafi Farmer. So we're going to listen to
И видя это, многие страны уже в ближайшее время могут начать, уверен, так и будет происходить, конвертировать свои бумажные и цифровые накопления в настоящие резервы в виде сырьевых товаров, земли, продовольствия, золота, других реальных активов.
Hey guys, Rafi here from the Endgame Investor, and today.
So there you go. Rafi, maybe you could, there's been, I think that decision on March 25th by the Russian central bank or the Russian government, at first people were like kind of, I wasn't too sure. I did tweet about it on the 29th. I realized it could be significant. So maybe you could give your version of what you think about that decision.
Well, yeah, to be fair, that clip from Putin came from TikTok, and it was tweeted out by Wall Street Silver, so I got to give them credit. I grabbed it from their Twitter feed. So yeah, at first I didn't know what was going on. Like 5,000 rubles for a gram. Like, why would they do that? Because gold is cheaper. Gold is more expensive than that. So why would they be able to buy any gold at a cheaper price? It didn't make sense. But then I was like flipping it over in my head. I was like, so are they just extorting the banks? Are they telling them to give them their member banks to give them the gold at that price, or else they'll shut down their licenses? I wouldn't put it past Putin. You could do that. But then I looked at a chart of Russian crude versus Brent crude, and I saw the plummet of the price of Urals crude, which is Russian crude. The discount went to like $30 a barrel. So the oil coming out of Russia was much cheaper. And the Americans and their allies are also trying to sanction Russian gold. So obviously they can't succeed as well with that, but it will still create a price differential between Russian gold and other gold that's outside of Russia. So I was thinking this 5,000 rubles per gram could be a premium for the domestic market, because it would be much harder for the Russian banks to sell their gold internationally. So yeah, it would be, so basically by sanctioning Russian gold, basically the West has given the Bank of Russia a huge discount on acquiring its own gold to back the ruble. And then once the ruble is strong enough, I think 80 is around parity. If it goes below 80 per dollar, then it becomes at 5,000 rubles a gram, it becomes a discount even to international markets, and then that incentivizes flows of gold into Russia, and they can keep accumulating at that price. We'll see what happens, but the West just gave Russia a big heads up, a big boost, for a hard currency.
Yeah, and this is what I tweeted out. I'm just going to show you here, you guys, on the 29th. And actually, for me, it's quite a lot of likes, 726. So I said, with ruble rising and dollar dropping, and the ruble has been rising because there's talk that, Russia, well, not talk, but Russia's saying we only accept ruble for our commodities now. So, and dollar dropping to around 88. Right now, we're around 83, 84 as of Friday. Russia central bank 5,000 price per gram of gold is now equivalent to 1750. When they issued this, it was around 1550 because the dollar was at 100. And I noted as well that if we were to go to 70, the price of gold in dollars would be the equivalent in ruble in dollars, 2,221. Right now, like you said, parity to this is around 1943 in terms of the dollar price. If we are at 80 in the ruble, so I think that's an important level. And what this does, let's say, if the ruble keeps appreciating and breaks through, the dollar goes below 80, you could see gold start flowing, from west to east, I would say. And that would be very interesting. And the other thing, I guess you said, and I agree, is that, they've put a floor on the price of gold in rubles because they're, willing to pay 5,000 per gram. And this is supposed to be till the end of June. So I guess they could even raise that price, down the road, which would make it even more interesting to sell to Russia.
They could raise it, but two things come to mind. One is that if they're offering a huge premium by the end of June, and the ruble strengthens to, like, say 70 or 65 or even 60 or whatever, that's usually where it has been. Then what they could do is lower the price, and that would make the ruble look even stronger. I mean, there's a lot they could do.
Yeah.
But now that this just occurred to me, when we're talking about history rhyming or repeating itself, like twice, I think, with Napoleon, when Napoleon invaded Russia, he was doing it because he was short on commodities. And when the what do they call it, the Hitler Stalin pact, when that broke down because Hitler needed oil, and now Russia is cutting off Germany again, and daring them to make the next move. And they're saying all you have to do now is just pay in rubles, and we can call this, we can be friends, we can call this all off. I think eventually maybe the Germans will do it, and if they do that, then the ruble will strengthen significantly.
Oh yeah. And just before we go, there's a super chat here. Elias Jones, thank you. He says, if value is subjective, as the Austrians say, how do you identify bubbles or bargains? Who am I to say that $160 per share of GME is overpriced? I don't follow GameStop. Do you? Yeah, sorry about.
I don't know anything about it.
I can't answer that, Elias Jones. I agree with you. Things are subjective. One thing I would say, though, looking back in time and measures like price earnings, that's a good way to determine price. What else? One thing I wanted to talk about, Rafi, is a little bit of the technical picture for precious metals. I don't know, you probably heard of Tavi Costa,
Heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, he does some good analysis, and he put this out here. I'm gonna get here, share it, like the miners to gold ratio, and this looks quite interesting, this spread. I mean, it's there's this trend line back from the early 90s, and we're breaking it. So what this is saying is that, it's not saying that gold is going to go down, but that the miners, and I've noticed in the last few weeks, despite the correction in bullion, the miners have stayed pretty strong. What's your take on this?
Yeah, we're seeing new highs in the strongest gold stocks, which are the royalty streamers. I think Franco-Nevada closed at a new high.
Yeah.
Look, the miners have been performing so terribly for so long.
Yeah.
That, and we can make parallels to what happened in the Great Depression. When the dollar was gold backed, which led to a deflationary depression as opposed to a hyperinflationary depression, which really, when you look at the effects of it, is the same thing. It impoverishes people. It's just nominally numbers go in the opposite direction, but practically there's very little difference between a deflationary depression and a hyperinflationary depression. But if in a deflationary depression you saw homestock mining, was it called? Homestock mining started really homestake.
Yeah.
Homestake mining. They really started exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly when the Dow bottomed, I think in 1932, then it started really to rocket.
Yeah. There's a question here. I just want to answer. Matt Bittner. Do you know the owner of Royal Coin? Yeah, I do, Matt. He's in Houston. I met him last year when the Silver Squeeze movement started, and I follow him as well on social media. He actually sent a really nice. He sent me a silver bar for Christmas. I don't have it handy right now, but it's got written Monaco 64, and on the other side it's got someone a golf swing, which is really nice of him.
Oh, I
Yes.
just came up with a good joke.
Oh, have you?
When do you know we're really in the end game? When people would rather have a lump of coal from Santa than a lump of silver.
Okay.
Oh,
I wanted to show you, and the title of this live stream is the dollars are coming home to roost after 50 years of deficits. And I mean, we've spoken in the alternative or, sound money space that when the petrodollar would be on its last legs, that you'd have a lot of dollars flowing back home because, there's a lot of dollars sloshing around because every country is trying to earn dollars in the petrodollar system. So this is quite interesting. Someone tweeted out first squawk, April 1st, Brazil central bank to keep reducing euros and dollars as reserves. Will keep on increasing Chinese yuan reserves. And last year, Brazil increased its gold reserves as well by 60%. So can you, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, how that, it will affect Americans, not just Americans, but every country that depends on the dollar, like Western Europe, how that will affect the cost of living, all the dollars flowing back.
Well, what it would do is basically the cumulative effect of every trade deficit that has been accumulated in America that has not been balanced. Those deficits never disappear; they accumulate. They exist. Where do they exist? They exist in the central banks of foreign countries. So once all of those dollars come back, or even most of them, or half of them, or some significant percentage of them come back to the States, you have a higher money supply with a much lower goods supply because they're not selling to you anymore real stuff for your dollars. So you're getting a higher money supply and lower real goods supply. So it's like all of the subsidies that have been experienced and enjoyed by previous generations in all of those trade deficits, they get reversed, in one or two generations in a huge flood of poverty. That's what Murray Rothbard said about trade deficits. They're not a problem. They're great until they are a problem. Once they all come back at you.
So it's time for payback, isn't it? And you have to pay back through, less consumption, which means poverty and higher prices. And that happened, in the UK in the post-war era. Like you had the rationing in the 50s, you had the inflation in the 60s and 70s, and
that's also a very good I guess I wouldn't say mathematical, but another way to visualize why hold gold and silver, because once all of those cumulative trade deficits come back to your country, the gold is on the opposite side of that scale. So when the dollars come back, gold just goes in the other direction. So you maintain your standard of living while everyone else's sinks.
Yeah
That's basically what you're doing.
Steve Ross Holmes, thank you for your super chat. He asks, if a currency was backed with gold, I suspect dollar would plunge. Wouldn't the USA have to do the same and confiscate gold to be able to do this? What do you think, Rafi?
They can try.
Yeah.
I mean, FDR already confiscated most or all the gold in 1933. So what would they do? Search house to house? They would go into safety deposit boxes. They'll go where it's easy to get it. They're not going to go knocking on individuals' doors. They don't have the manpower to do that, or the constitutional authority, I don't think.
Yeah. And I don't think gold is as important today, in terms of people holding it. Back then, when FDR confiscated gold, it was part of the system, and now it isn't. I think there's a very small percentage of people who hold gold. I don't think it would be worth it. All it will mean is that the US, they'll just have to buy gold in the international market, and that will drive the price a lot higher. And maybe the gold that's supposedly at Fort Knox, that's just been hypothecated and leased many times over. And the way to close out leases is to buy it. So that's how I think, that's what I think would happen. I guess if you want to protect against confiscation, there's still, you know, the, I think it was the, whatchamacallit, the executive order that FDR passed, and his Secretary of the Treasury was a coin collector. So he put in there a clause that said if you have pre-1933 coins, you know, you're okay. So if you want to protect yourself, but I personally don't think, I could be wrong, but like Rafi said, it's going to be very hard to confiscate gold. And I think a lot of the people who have gold are people, surprisingly, people, you know, the elites.
What they could do and what they might actually do is just outlaw it in circulation. They say you can't pay for things with gold. You have to, everything has to be recorded. Everything's got to be digital. They could try that, but they might do that. But even if they do, there's still going to be black markets of people using coins to buy things. You know, if you can't get enough food, you can only get it with gold and silver coins. Everyone knows the guy in their neighborhood who will take their gold and silver for food, and you'll have black markets like that.
Yeah, I want to show you here Newmont, and I have to say it's one of the miners that I have, and you know, I showed earlier that spread chart that the miners are outperforming bullion now, but look at this chart. I mean, this is an all-time high. It's the highest level actually since the 1970s. And if you notice here, there's also like a teacup. So this is really bullish. And then why am I showing this? Because if you compare it to the teacup here in gold, you know, I think Newmont and the miners are leading the way. And I think it's only about time that we will see the same kind of move. Yeah, this is the price of gold here going back to the late 90s. And we've broken out, I guess, out of this, the handle. We're just like now consolidating here a little bit. Any views on the technicals for gold, Rafi?
I haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah.
But we have a, it looks like a teacup within a teacup here.
Yeah.
And there was a much bigger teacup from 1980 to 2011, then another teacup from 2011 to 2020,
Yeah.
which was 40 years, and then about looks like 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe this one looks like it's 2 years. We're shrinking at a, you know, at a very similar rate. And if this teacup is over now, it wouldn't surprise me.
Mm. Yeah, and the silver teacup, I haven't drawn it, but it's even bigger. It's like from 1980 to 2011, from 50 to 50. So I think the key levels in silver are like 30, and then after we break 30, we could be at 50 very quickly.
Yeah, if that happens, I think SLV would blow up, and there would be a serious problem getting physical silver off coin dealers.
Yeah, it could be a bit like nickel. What do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we don't know. It's not like everybody knew what was going to happen in nickel, you know, a week before it happened. There were some rumblings, and then all of a sudden, this, you know, somebody's dirty laundry came out. They had a huge nickel short position. You know, we know that silver is heavily shorted, not necessarily, but with positions in futures markets, but if you want to take, I try to take the logical perspective of all these things. Like if you own a dollar, if you own a dollar in your bank account, are you primarily short silver or short gold? Because you could argue it was silver, because before a dollar was gold backed, it was silver backed. So if you go all the way back to, you know, pre-1873, if you own a dollar, you are by definition short silver. So that would make silver a much more shorted metal than gold, which makes sense because the natural monetary ratio between gold and silver is 15 to 1, and that's where it will descend to in a monetary panic. It always does.
Yeah.
So,
So someone has said here, Rafi, is Rafi is most sad. That's a joke, isn't it? I don't.
No, I'm no fan of them.
I know. There you go. I just thought it was funny. I know you're not. Benoit.
I'd be really good. I'd be a really good one if I was. But
Yeah.
no.
Benoit Guillou says, if you're the only one in block being able to buy bread, you need an armored vehicle to bring the loaf back home. There's a price to pay on each side of hyperinflation. Yeah, I mean, hyperinflation. What do you think are the, the probabilities of a hyperinflation now, Rafi? I mean, you just said that in Germany they're talking about 20 to 50% increase in the price of food next week.
I think the probability of hyperinflation in the U.S. and Europe and also Israel too, I think it's nearly 100%. I mean, just look at what they're doing. It's either that or a total banking collapse, and then you have an incredible deflation. But I mean, either way, there's going to be a monetary reset, up or down. It's coming, and your money's going to be devalued either way.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I've noticed, because I'm originally from Brazil, of course, is the Brazilian currency has been like the best performing currency this year of the G20. So here's the chart. The dollar really shot up against the real, like in the start of COVID. There's like a really nice teacup here that we broke, but now it's coming right back down. And I think one of the reasons for that is that a lot of institutional investors, they've gotten out of Russia because of the crisis, and they went into Brazil because it's an emerging market. It's got commodities. But I think this is also a sign that countries that are wealthy in resources are going to do well, with this petrodollar demise. The whole monetary system, multipolar world system will have to be based on real things. There's going to be a rebalancing, like you said, all the dollars flowing home and gold going up. And I think this chart here would be interesting to see, if the dollar holds this trend line. My view is that if the dollar breaks this trend line, we could see hyperinflation, which someone might ask, what does the Brazilian currency have to do with hyperinflation? Well, I think it's because it has a lot of resources. And any view on that, Rafi?
I haven't looked at the Brazilian real specifically.
Yeah.
But I mean, Brazil, a lot of, but they're the soybean country, right?
And coffee as well. Iron, a lot of raw materials. Soybeans is the biggest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think this could be like forecasting ruble strength as well. Especially if Europe gives in and says, yeah, we'll pay for rubles.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even have to be Europe, one country at a time.
Yeah.
If they're desperate for gas and energy, which they will be, then they'll either have to do that or invade Russia, and nobody wants to invade Russia. I don't think that's going to happen. It just seems ridiculous in these times.
Yeah. Bo Diddley asks, what if the populations across the globe decide they didn't want to be subservient to big banks' fiat system anymore, and all at once everyone stopped and came up with a new system? I'll answer first, and then Rafi will answer. Well, I think there's not, the general population is not aware of that the fiat system is detrimental to them. Of course, there are people like us, a small percentage that do. But maybe I'll let Rafi explain how Rothbard talked about, hyperinflation, that it was actually the general public saying we've had enough with the banking system.
Yeah, you don't have to devise a new system. I think one of the errors that even people on our side make is they assume that after everything's done, we have to get together and make a plan for what are we going to do with the monetary system now. We need a central plan to figure it all out and make it really smart. But you don't need to do that. These things are bottom up. All you need is honesty and honest money and honest trading between individuals, and then it grows and to make a law, don't steal, stop inflating, and
Yeah.
then people trade based on what they want, and then a system develops by itself from the ground up. And that's what you got to do. Just be honest, and
Yeah.
the free market will resolve everything
Yeah.
else. I mean,
We
we don't
need-
have to be in control of everything. We're not in control of everything. The best we could do is recognize that and just say it.
I
yeah.
agree. We don't need a system. We just need a free market. I got Billy because he was almost falling off the sofa, and he just wants to say hello to everyone. You can go down now, boy.
In terms of Rothbard, I mean, what is going on now is a very fast forward version of the collapse of the Roman Empire. I mean, Rome ran out of things to conquer, so they ran out of money, so they collapsed in on themselves because all they could do is inflate their currency more and more, which is exactly what's happening to America. America ran out of things to conquer, and now it keeps inflating its currency, but on a global scale instead of just Europe. So this is the collapse of the Roman Empire on a global scale. And what comes next is some kind of dark ages that I hope we can get out of quickly.
Yeah.
But that's coming, and the hyperinflation, it is a self-destruct button, but it's a self-destruct button on their plans too, which is perpetual totalitarianism. It's a self-destruct button on that. It's not comfortable, it's not nice, but it's the last resort, and it's the inevitable. It's why nobody can ever conquer the world forever. It's impossible.
Yeah,
for that
because
reason.
fiat currency is stealing, like you said. Someone said that Billy is really inflated and fluffy. He is. He's having he's being groomed this week. I think his groomer's coming on Wednesday. So yeah, it's about time for him to get a haircut. Billy Protector or silver. So John the accountant says, oh yeah, he's talking about the ruble ratio that we've spoken about. I think the 80 level, if keep an eye on the ruble or the dollar. If the dollar breaks below 80, that's gold should start going up above 1950 quite quickly, I would say. Brady Girding says American dollar is backed by military. I agree, but back in the 80s, the Soviet Union had a very strong military, and the Soviet Union still collapsed because they couldn't, because their whole edifice, the state collapsed there. They couldn't finance the military. So yeah, America might have a big military, but if the dollar collapses, how are you going to run the military? To run a military, you need fuel, you need food, you need to pay people. What do you think, Rafi?
Yeah, the American dollar is not backed by the military. That's not true. It's a way to see it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it's a falsehood to say that, but it's an illusion, really. It's the military is backed by the dollar.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Because if you can't pay them, they're not a military.
Yeah, that's right. And if the dollar goes, you can't run the military. You're going to see a lot of people in the military industrial complex trying to sell a lot of weapons abroad to get hard currency.
Exactly what happened with the Soviet Union. They started selling their weapons, and then people came in to make sure they weren't selling their nuclear warheads, which would be a big problem.
Someone is asking Jay Northrup, Mario, how is England going to get gas from Russia? Actually, we in England or the UK, we import very little gas from Russia. It will probably have an impact, but it won't make as much difference than countries like Germany. They import a lot of gas. What about Israel? Rafi, do you guys depend on gas from anywhere or?
Actually, no.
No.
We had this big we export gas.
All right.
Big find in the Mediterranean Sea near Cyprus by Yitzhak Tshuva a few years ago, and like it's enough for the whole country. But I have noticed that that's natural gas, but I have noticed that diesel prices specifically are almost 10 shekels a liter, which is the equivalent of about $10. It's like $11-12 a gallon. That's crazy. And I run my car on LPG. For that reason, I switched over systems in 2011.
Oh, that's good. Someone's saying, I don't think the fall of nowadays control structure would bring a dark age. more like an enlightened age, because a lot of the control is assured by obfuscation and disinformation. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I just think the transition will be painful. Hopefully, it won't be too long. But long term, I think it's a good thing, because we've been living in this world of deficits, where countries like the US, the UK as well, a lot, they live on deficits, and we got to pay for it. And it's going to be a more honest, sound money world, I would say. James B, thank you for your super chat. He says, if you had 5 to 10% in historically cheap Evraz and Gazprom, would you hope of it coming back? Bigger risk is UK government, I guess. To be honest, I guess those are Russian companies, and I don't follow them too much, but I think a lot of people in the West, when the crisis kicked off and they sanctioned Russia and Russian companies, a lot of investors got out of, some at a heavy loss of their Russian, investments. I know someone who actually got out of Russian bonds before everything kicked off, and this person felt really, how can I say, fortunate to have done it. But actually, in the longer term, let's say if you had $100 million and you had $1 million worth of Russian investments and you were able to get out of it, I actually think it probably could backfire, because if you didn't mind, having that $1 million become worth on paper like $10,000 and just held on to it, I think in the long term it would be great to have these assets. What do you think, Rafi?
Well, I'm in a similar situation, because I owned a very small percentage of a Russian ETF, and now it's frozen. It's still in my account. I can't do anything with it right now. I'm just letting it go, because it's not that I wasn't going to put too much money in Russian ETFs, even though I liked some of their companies. But yeah, I mean, I can't even sell it if I wanted to, so I'm stuck with it. And I think eventually, I don't know how long it'll take, but eventually it'll be unfrozen and those assets will become liquid again. And I think at much higher prices. But I'm not really worried about it, unless I went in like a huge percentage, then I'd be freaking out. But don't do that.
Okay. What are your thoughts on farmland and single family homes purchased below replacement costs being an effective inflation hedge? I mean, farmland, in my opinion, is something good to have generational wise. The only problem, it depends on the jurisdiction, taxation and things like that. Single family homes, I guess the same kind of theory, I would say, real estate taxes, but you look at the very wealthy families, like in Europe and even in the US, they've had farmland and property for generations. Rafi?
You'd have to, if you're an expert in farmland and you know what to do with it, you know who to sell it to, and you know your tax code, then yeah, it could be a very good play. But it's a niche thing. You have to know what you're doing. It's much more dangerous. I wouldn't advise people who just like, oh, I'm looking for an inflation hedge, so just buy farmland near you. I mean, I don't know enough about it to say that, but I can say with confidence that the best inflation hedge is money.
Yeah, real money, gold and silver. Yeah.
And with that, you will be able to buy as much farmland as you want, when the time comes, or real estate. So we're entering a money crisis. We're not entering really even a food supply crisis, because we have enough food to feed the whole world. We just don't have enough of a good monetary medium to divide the food and distribute it to those who need it. So that's the problem. The problem is the money, not the food.
Yeah, the problem is with the money. Yeah, the money is dying, I think, Ziphius, thank you for the super chat. Will the euro follow the US dollar in collapsing and what is the timeline? I'll let you answer that, Rafi, and then I'll chime in after you.
Well, I don't know what goes first. I suspect the euro goes first because the European banking system is weaker. So that means that the euro has to inflate faster to keep its weaker banks solvent, and then the US will follow again, and then maybe there'll be one more round. But it looks to me like the euro is more in peril because you have Greece and Italy with skyrocketing debts that just won't stop.
Yeah.
So any little crack there could destroy the euro, and then I think the dollar goes.
Yeah, and I heard, I've heard over the years someone say that whichever country, puts their currency back on a gold standard, that would kill the petrodollar system. And it seems that that's what's happening. I mean, I saw on King World News, Alistair McLeod said that he thinks Russia actually has 12,000 tons. Officially, they have 2,300 tons. And he's saying that China has 20,000, which would be 32,000. But,
Where did you get those numbers?
I know. I don't know. I mean, I've heard those numbers before. And until I see official numbers, I'm not really going to speculate. But who knows? He could be right. But yeah. Let's see some more questions here. Sarah Brown says you can't eat gold or silver, but you definitely can't eat stocks, bonds, or fiat. Gold takes up less space and lasts longer than perishable food. Diversification is key. Well, yeah, I mean, money is not supposed to be consumed. As you in your video there about what did Homer say?
Money can be exchanged for goods and services. Yeah.
There you go, Sarah. So
he was the full clip is he was looking for a peanut. So he was looking under his couch and he found $20 and he was disappointed. And then his brain said, well, $20 can buy many peanuts. Explain how. Money can be exchanged for goods and services. That's what it's for.
Yeah. And the other misconception that people have, they say, oh, we don't have enough gold in the world to go back on use gold as money, but they forget that prices can be, the ratio of gold to other goods, that's what matters, because if the price of gold goes to 50,000, there will be enough gold. What's your view on that, Rafi?
That's a ridiculous statement, because if there wasn't enough gold to serve as money, gold would never serve as money. But gold has always served as money, which means there's always been enough gold, relative to goods and services. And the more goods and services we produce, the more gold we mine. So I mean, nothing has changed.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's about 84 years, I think, of stock to flow ratio. So most of the gold that's ever been mined in history is still, it hasn't been consumed, and that's why it's money as well. You can't have commodities like wheat or oil as money, and that's why I think the petrodollar is failing, because you consume them. And yes, the ruble will be strong because they have commodities, but ultimately, I think we're seeing now that they're pegging it to gold. They're not pegging it to oil. And maybe you could, because you explain these things well, and I could explain it too, but you're here as a guest. Could you explain to us how pegging the ruble to gold will peg everything else to gold?
Well, if they peg the ruble to gold, they're saying the ruble is gold.
Yeah.
If the ruble is gold, then you don't have to move the gold, and you just trade the rubles, and that is trading gold. I mean, that is the purpose of paper money, to be a receipt for real money. That's why it exists. So going back to that, then things will be priced. Then what money will people want? They'll want the money that's most, just like Bitcoin. For the I hesitate to use this analogy, but why do people want Bitcoin? Because it's going up in value. So if the ruble is pegged to gold, it's a gold substitute. it will strengthen versus other currencies. And which currency will people want? They'll want the ruble because it's going up in value. So they'll buy the ruble, which will put it more up in value. I'm not saying speculate on rubles. It's not worth it to speculate on rubles. You could just buy the gold, and it's much simpler. So that's how I see it. Where eventually it goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
But someone's going to peg to gold, and then other countries will have to follow or lose their purchasing power.
Yeah. Tristan Jones, do you think the demise of the dollar will be slow and painful, or do you think something will suddenly break and it will collapse quickly? Well, I think it has been, it's had a good run, the paper dollar, since 1971. And I actually think there's an old saying about, you go bankrupt, usually it's slowly and then all of a sudden, right? And I think we are in this, we are in all of a sudden period. I think it's a matter of months, maybe a year or two at the most. I think we're very close.
Yeah, we're very close. It's been a slow and steady decline for many years, and now we're in the accelerating phase.
Yeah, I think since 1914, when the Fed started operating, it was created in 1913, but only actually started being operating in November of 1914. The consumer dollar has lost, I think, 96.5% of its value. So we're in the last 3.5%, and that could go very quickly. Ziphius, thank you for your super chat. Will physical banks close down in the EU or the US? Well, I can say that, you can still go to the bank here in the UK, but they're closing a lot of branches. I think they keep some open still because there's still, a fairly large elderly population that doesn't use the internet and still like to go to banks. But unfortunately, I think the trend is for them to close, 20 years time, to have no banks as we know today. In the US, I haven't really followed too much the situation in the US. Maybe you know a little more about that, Rafi?
Looking at anything out in 20 years from now, we really have no idea what we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about they have plans too. All their plans are going to come to nothing in the next year or two. We're talking about a hyperinflation of the world reserve currency. Nothing that we can project beyond that makes any sense, because nobody knows what is going to be after that. We're talking about a new universe here.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I mean, we could have something different. Like we could have online apps like Glint, for example. And I know I do have a referral code for them, and I'm not trying to push it now. I'm just saying you could have companies come up and say, we'll keep your gold and we'll give you access to, because it's good to have gold and physical, of course, but once the system goes and you need something new, we're going to have to start trusting each other. So I think maybe there won't be physical banks, but there will be physical companies, depositories where they might keep your gold. But like Rafi said, it's all speculation, because I don't think their plans will work, because you've talked about this, Rafi, the Tower of Babel, that's the analogy. There are always people who try to control everything and they always fail. Another super chat from Ziphias, he's asking, will the demise of the dollar affect Israel? I'll let Rafi answer that.
Oh, and how? Yes, absolutely it will. The shekel is backed primarily by dollars. That's the main asset behind the Bank of Israel. They have no gold or silver or anything real, really. And since its founding, the state of Israel has been the lapdog of the United States. And it's been pretty pathetic, and I'm not proud of it. And I'm no fan of the government of Israel at all. I live here for other reasons, despite the government, not because of it. And I'm not a secular Zionist in that way at all.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the government of Israel to get a little whipping, when their sugar daddy fails.
Yeah, because the US gives a lot of aid, like monetary aid to Israel. So if the dollar collapses, yeah, Israel is not going to get that anymore. Matt Bittner, ask Rafi, where does Israel get most of its oil from?
Where?
Huh.
It used to be Iran, but not since the revolution. Where does it come? I'm pretty sure it comes from Europe.
Oil, yeah.
I've never looked at. I could look at OEC.world and see, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's Europe.
Okay. I mean, the UK actually, most people don't know, is a pretty big oil producer. I think UK does 1 million barrels a day. Norway is a big oil producer, so maybe you buy some from Norway.
Really have to check this now.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is on Friday, the yield curve, like especially the 2 versus 10s, really inverted decisively here. As you can see, the 2-year, this I did a screenshot at the end of the day, New York day, of course, and the 2-year was at 246 and the 10-year was at 238. So it's like 8 basis points. And the other interesting spread was the 2-year versus the 30-year. So the 2s versus 30s is inverted by about 2.5 basis points. And that's the first time that ever happened. Well, the first time since 08, and we all know what happened in 08. And I also noticed that the banking ETF, I think is KBE, that lost about 5% during the week, while the major, the general stock market was up slightly. So I think this is going to hurt the banks a lot, the inverted yield curve, and it's a sign that we could have a recession. What do you think, Rafi?
So I just looked at this. Where does Israel get its oil from? Azerbaijan 42.6%, Kazakhstan 30.1%, United States 20.7%, and Russia 6.25%.
Oh, so none from Europe. It's more like these stand countries.
Yeah, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. Wow.
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
Well, that's good. You always learn from questions, I guess, sometimes. Rand Grievely, thank you for your super chat. He says, keep up the good work. Greetings from Sweden. Thank you. My Swedish. Tack så mycket. That means thank you very much in Swedish. I know that. And I know svenska vacker flicka. That means Swedish girls are nice.
Okay.
But anyway, David Bradley says, I'm late today, but hello, Mario, Rafi, and friends.
Hi.
We've got 7 minutes. Bo Diddley, too many vaults have gone bankrupt in the past. For me to trust them holding any gold for me, why would anyone trust them? Please explain. Well, the reason why I said that is that eventually, right now I don't trust the banks. I don't trust a lot of vaults, but because the system is so dishonest. But eventually, unless we want to go to a Mad Max kind of world, we have to trust each other. There needs to be trust in a civilized society. That's what I meant. Any views on that, Rafi?
Well, you got to pick a vault that you trust. That's all I can say. You got to pick someone who you trust his character.
Yeah.
And thankfully there are a lot of people in the gold and silver industry who are trustworthy individuals and people.
Yeah.
You got to pick one of them instead of putting your gold in a safe deposit box in like a big commercial bank, which would be the worst thing to do.
Yeah, because right now I don't think it's the time to, because we still have bad money, and Gresham's law says you should try to spend your bad money and keep your good money. But eventually, what's the point of having money, i.e. gold and silver, if we're not going to use it as a utility, to exchange goods and services? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying right now go and do it, because it's still early. I think we need to see what happens. And once the dust settles, things will come back gradually. But of course, you can't trust everyone 100% of the time, but you can trust some people. Monaco 64 gold investments have a vault. Yes, they do provide vaulting service. I think they charge about £4 an ounce per year. Could be less. So they do. They've been in business for 40 years. I trust them, but anything can happen. Their vault is in the city of London, and let's say there's a lockdown and they don't let people go, they cut everything off. They cut the post. You can't go into the city, or so anything is possible. And I saw, I was reading, I thought it was strange that in China now, in Shanghai, they've had a lot of lockdowns. Have you seen that, Rafi? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did see that. I try to ignore any article about lockdowns because it brings back bad feelings and bad memories I don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I don't have the strength to deal with it. So.
And it almost feels like back when the whole thing started, they were talking about Wuhan, and now it's about Shanghai. I hope it's not like an omen for us in the West, because I agree with you. It's just it was a really bad policy, and don't want to get too much into it. But one thing I would say, in Sweden, they didn't do anything, and a lot less, and they weren't affected, that badly compared to countries that did.
The question I think isn't really are they going to, is do they think they will be able to? Because if they don't think they will be able to, they won't do it. If they think they'll be able to, they will, because they want to.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Ziphias asks, can vaults be confiscated? Well, I remember back in like the early 2000s here in the UK, the government actually confiscated, or they confiscated a whole vault, under the Blair government. So governments can do anything. So yeah, you need to do your due diligence. Some people think Switzerland is a good country to, for vaults, because have a history of protecting private property. But the other thing as well, now with lockdowns, I know they're finished and you can go to Switzerland, but you never know what's going to happen. Some people talk about Singapore being also a good place, but that would be too far for me to have my gold in Singapore. Helen of Troy, I like this, her name, Helen of Troy Ounce.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I like that. Question from Mario and Rafi. What are your thoughts about the Roto-Rooter theory? And if it's not valid, why would those documents on the website of the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston?
You'll have to answer this one. I'm not familiar.
Yeah. The Roto-Rooter theory is Bix Weir's theory, and I think the Bank of Boston, the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, wrote a story, for school children or something about, and it was called the Roto-Rooter or something else. And Bix Weir thinks it's like a message about the system. I don't remember exactly, but what I would say is that Bix Weir's speculating, he's interpreting, this article from the Boston Fed in the way that he wants. So, and Bix Weir has this theory as well that there's thousands of tons of gold or millions of tons of gold under the Grand Canyon in the US. But what I know about that story is that in 1912, some junior, gold explorers, junior mining company did some prospecting in the Grand Canyon, and they thought, it was rich in gold, but it's not the way Bix Weir talks about it, is that there is a lot of like gold bars there hidden. I don't think it's that, because the article is, I think, in the New York Times, or a newspaper in New York from 1912, saying that they thought it was a rich property, but it would have been too expensive to mine. So yeah, I like Bix where, he does, he believes in silver, and sound money, but sometimes he goes off, he makes some really wild speculative, he has his ideas, and I like listening to him, but I wouldn't, bank on everything he says.
Everybody's got to brand themselves somehow.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I think this is it. So, Rafi, thanks for coming on the channel for the live stream, and yeah, maybe you could tell the viewers where they can find your work.
Yeah, you can find me by just Google the Endgame Investor. You'll find everything you need.
And also your YouTube channel, Rafi Farber.
Yeah.
I recommend Rafi's YouTube channel. He needs, I mean, you've got about 6,000 subscribers.
Something like that. Yeah, close
I
to
think
that.
yeah, and you're getting like 4, 5, 6,000 views, which is really good per video. So it would be nice if you guys subscribe to Rafi, not because I'm saying it, because I think he's really good. So again, thank you all of you for coming on the live stream and participating. And I wish you all a great start to the week. And Rafi, thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
You're welcome. All right. See you.
You too. I've been up since 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
driving